Have you ever returned home at night, opened your door, and felt like someone was already inside? This happened to me. My name is Tunde, and I'll never forget that night. I came back from work, tired and hungry, but when I reached my door, I heard soft breathing coming from my room. My heart froze. I knew I locked the door myself before leaving. Still, someone was inside. I called out, thinking maybe it was a mistake. When I finally opened the door, what I saw made my blood run cold. That was the night I realized not every noise in your house comes from the living. Tunde had just moved to the city after getting a small job at a printing press. He was grateful to finally find a room he could afford, even though the building looked old and quite like a forgotten place. The landlord, a frail old man, gave him the key and warned him never to stay out too late. Tunde laughed it off, thinking it was just an old man's talk. The first few days were peaceful. But on the seventh night, something strange happened. He came home around 10 p.m., exhausted. As he stood before his door, he heard a soft breathing sound inside his room. He froze. His key was still in his pocket, and he knew he locked the door himself that morning. He pressed his ear to the wooden door. The breathing continued, slow, steady, like someone deeply asleep. His heart started racing. He whispered, "Who's there?" No reply. He ran to call his neighbor, but when they returned, the sound had stopped. They opened the door. Nothing, just darkness and cold air. Tunde laughed nervously, but deep down, fear sat quietly inside his chest, whispering that something wasn't right. That night, Tunde barely slept. Each time he closed his eyes, he felt a strange presence beside him. The air felt heavy, and the room was unusually cold. At midnight, he heard the faint sound of someone dragging their feet across the floor. He jumped up, switched on the light. Nothing. His slippers had moved from the door to the center of the room. Morning came slowly. He tried to forget everything, and went to work pretending all was fine. But when he returned that evening, he noticed something that made his skin crawl. His bedsheet was neatly folded, and the curtain he left open was now closed. He lived alone. Fear crept in again. He ran to his neighbor, Mama Grace, a kind elderly woman. She looked at him quietly and said, "You sleep in that room." He nodded. Her eyes widened. "My son, no one has stayed in that room for long. They all complain of strange things." Tunde tried to smile, but his hands were shaking. That night, he placed his Bible under his pillow and left the light on. Yet, when the clock struck 1 a.m., the bulb blinked twice and went off. Darkness filled the room. Tunde's heart pounded as he reached for his phone to use the flashlight. The air was icy, and his breath came out in short gasps. Then he heard it again, the breathing. Slow, deep, and frighteningly close. He froze, unable to move. Something brushed his hand. He shouted, "Who's there?" But his voice cracked like a whisper swallowed by the night. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then a soft female voice whispered, "Why did you come back?" Tunde jumped off the bed, his phone trembling in his hand. He pointed the light around the room. Nothing. Only his reflection in the cracked mirror. But as he looked closer, he saw a shadow standing behind him, a woman's figure in white, eyes full of sorrow. He screamed, turned around, but the figure vanished. His Bible had fallen to the floor and its pages were open, fluttering though there was no wind. Sweat poured down his face as he ran out of the room barefoot. Mama Grace met him at the corridor. "You've seen her, haven't you?" she asked softly. Tunde's lips trembled. He nodded slowly. "Who is she?" he whispered. Mama Grace looked away and said, "The one who never left." Tunde begged Mama Grace to tell him everything. She sighed deeply and motioned for him to sit. "Many years ago," she began, "a young lady named Ada lived in that room. She was quiet, beautiful, and deeply in love with a man who promised to marry her. But one night, she vanished. People said she ran away, but her things were still in the room. No one saw her again. Tunde's body shivered. So you mean her ghost? Mama Grace nodded slowly. Ever since that night, strange things happen there. People hear her crying, or feel her beside them. Some say she's waiting for something, or someone. Tunde tried to laugh it off, but his voice failed him. He returned to his room with trembling hands. Everything was silent again. He locked the door, turned off the light, and lay down, whispering prayers until sleep took him. Around 2 a.m., he heard gentle sobbing near his ear. He opened his eyes slowly. A shadow sat on his bed, weeping softly. "Please, help me," it said. Tunde wanted to run, but his body refused to move. The cold hand that touched his face felt both real and dead. Tunde couldn't breathe. The hand on his face was icy, heavy, and trembling with sadness. "Please, help me," the voice whispered again. Her tears fell on his chest like drops of cold rain. Then, just as suddenly, she vanished. The room became silent, but her perfume, sweet and old, lingered in the air. When morning came, Tunde's eyes were red from fear and lack of sleep. He decided to visit the landlord. The old man's face grew pale the moment Tunde mentioned Ada's name. "Don't speak that name here," he warned, glancing around nervously. "She was a good girl. Her fiancé used to live here too, before he disappeared. After that, no one stayed in that room." Tunde frowned. "But sir, I think her spirit is still there. She spoke to me." The landlord slammed his walking stick on the floor. "Enough. You don't know what you are saying. Just leave that room before it's too late." Confused and scared, Tunde returned home. That night, he locked every window and door. But at exactly 1 a.m., he woke up to see something written on his mirror in red, "Behind the well." Tunde stared at the mirror, his heart thudding so hard it echoed in his ears. The words, "Behind the well," dripped slowly down the glass like fresh blood. He wanted to scream, but fear locked his voice inside his throat. He rushed outside, hoping someone else had seen it, but the whole compound was silent and dark. Only the old well stood behind the house, covered in weeds. Morning came, and the writing on the mirror was gone. He told Mama Grace what happened, and her face turned pale. "That's where Ada used to fetch water," she whispered. Her fiancé often waited for her there. Something inside Tunde refused to rest. That evening, he took a torchlight and walked to the back of the compound. The well was deep and quiet. As he shone the light around, something glittered at the edge, half buried in the soil. He dug carefully and pulled out a rusted necklace with the letter *A* on it. The moment he touched it, a cold wind blew across the compound, and a soft voice echoed from the well, "Thank you for finding me." Tunde dropped the necklace, trembling. "What have I done?" he whispered. The next morning, he gathered courage and called the police. When they dug beneath the old mango tree, everyone screamed. Inside the shallow grave lay bones wrapped in a torn dress. On the finger was a ring engraved with the name Ada. The landlord fainted on the spot. When he woke up, he confessed with tears. Ada's fiancé had killed her after she found out about his lies. He buried her there before running away. As they took the remains away, a soft wind blew past Tunde's face, warm and calm, as if saying, "Thank you." For the first time, he smiled through his tears. The police sealed off the compound for days, and everyone moved out except Tunde. He couldn't leave yet. Something in his heart told him Ada's spirit still watched over him. That night, for the first time in weeks, he slept peacefully. No whisper, no breathing, no cold air, only silence. When morning came, Tunde packed his things. He locked the room one last time and dropped the key with Mama Grace. "She's gone," he said quietly. Mama Grace looked at him with wet eyes. "You did what no one could do. She's finally free." As Tunde walked away from the old house, the wind followed him softly, almost like a farewell. But deep down, he knew some stories never truly end. they just rest.